This is a really, really interesting video. And this is from political scientist John Mearsheimer. And he predicted exactly what's happening now in Ukraine back in 2015. Listen up.
But I actually think that what's going on here is that the West is leading Ukraine down the primrose path. And the end result is that Ukraine is going to get wrecked. And I believe that the policy that I'm advocating, which is neutralizing Ukraine and then building it up economically and getting it out of the competition between Russia on one side and NATO on the other side, is the best thing that could happen to the Ukrainians. What we're doing is encouraging the Ukrainians to play tough with the Russians. We're encouraging the Ukrainians to think that they will ultimately become part of the West, because we will ultimately defeat Putin and we will ultimately get our way. Time is on our side. And of course, the Ukrainians are playing along with this. And the Ukrainians are almost completely unwilling to compromise with the Russians and instead want to pursue a hardline policy. Well, as I said to you before, if they do that, the end result is that their country is going to be wrecked. And what we're doing is, in effect, encouraging that outcome. I think it would make much more sense for us to work to create a neutral Ukraine. It would be in our interest to bury this crisis as quickly as possible. It certainly would be in Russia's interest to do so. And most importantly, it would be in Ukraine's interest to put an end to the crisis. Thank you.
So you heard the man. He's very clear, and everything he said in that talk came true. So again, you have a lot of clowns, who do politics and think that because they talk about politics, like some shitty DNC stuff, that they suddenly have to opine on Ukraine. And dude, stay in your lane. I'm sorry, no one is perfect, but really just don't talk about Ukraine if you're going to leave the whole geopolitical context out. This isn't about Vladimir Putin and whether he was loved by his mother as a child and if he has a fucking personality disorder. This is about you failing to comprehend that Russia is a fucking country, the largest country on earth, has the most nukes on earth, and was promised by the West in 1990 that NATO would not expand anymore. And NATO broke that promise. And you can't just fucking bully people and coerce them and keep prodding a bear and then get mad when the bear wakes up. So adding Ukraine to NATO, that's the final straw. You already got away with adding, the other 5 countries that currently border Russia. What do you think you're doing? The United States would do worse, and the same people would find a way to justify that. The same people who say this is Kremlin talking points. No, it's basic fucking geopolitics, you clown. The people saying that would find ways to defend the U.S. if the shoe were on the other foot, right? And people still do with the Cuban Missile Crisis. They say, well, of course there was almost a nuclear war. You parked your missiles near our border. Oh, but it's okay for you to park your missiles on Russia's border? Get the fuck out of here with this double standard bullshit. No one's buying that anymore. No one is buying that crap from you. And these State Department talking points that these fake-ass socialists and progressives want to repeat, they're dunces. They don't know anything about anything. It's embarrassing. And here, what this video that I just played to you, right? Political scientist John Mearsheimer, he really nails it. He says that the best thing would, for everyone, and it would be in everyone's interest, especially Ukrainians, but also the West, and of course Russia's, not to have Ukraine in NATO. And again, what's really funny here, how you can see how the West treats its friends. No one is going to defend Ukraine right now. NATO ain't sending troops. And they never accepted Ukraine as a member. So they kept teasing Ukraine, dangling this membership to antagonize Russia. And Russia called their bluff. Russia called their bluff. Say, you want to fuck around? You're going to find out. And unfortunately, who pays the price? It's Ukrainians. It's not the Americans. It's not the Europeans. They sit comfortably back in their home countries, and that's it. And then they have the stones to talk about, defense and security. No, you are destabilizing the fucking planet. The biggest threat on the planet right now, the biggest threat to world security, world peace, is the U.S., is NATO, is Israel, is the UK. For centuries and centuries, we've been bullying people, colonizing them, coercing them, this neo-colonialism continues to this day, and we want to impose on others what we think is in our benefit. Yeah, but that doesn't work with Russia because Russia ain't fucking around. Russia is not Syria or Iran or whoever you think you can bully. And by the way, they get their asses kicked there too. They also got taught lessons, but in their own ways. But This is not, some tiny island nation or republic that you can just bully. You are playing with fire, and the energy crisis in Europe is going to get way worse if you go too far and start removing Russia from SWIFT completely, imposing more economic sanctions. No one is going to get hurt except the Russian civilians. That's number one. Putin is not even going to notice any changes because of sanctions. His standard of living stays the same. He's good. He's got it good. And that's the same for all leaders. The sanctions don't affect them. It's the population who are in trouble. And going too far with the SWIFT stuff, Putin answered you. He said, you better not fuck around. You better quit. See my nuclear arsenal over there? That's what he's saying. You need to calm the fuck down with this, let's remove Russia from SWIFT. You're dreaming. I think that's what that's going to do is it's going to end up with Russia. You're going to end up with Russia continuing the SFPS, I believe it was the alternative to the SWIFT system that they have with China, and bringing other countries into the fold. And that's going to contribute, ironically, it's going to contribute to the demise of Western and American hegemony, especially monetary hegemony. Russia has been de-dollarizing its reserves since 2014 because of this specific threat. They knew that it would come back, and it has. So they've been diversifying and trying to get more sterling, more euros, more gold. And they've kept that gold in Russia because they're smart. But, you go too far, that's not going to end well for anyone. For anyone. Again, I really think we should listen to what he was saying again.
Is that the West is leading Ukraine down the primrose path. And the end result is that Ukraine is going to get wrecked.
Exactly. This is exactly what I've been telling you. NATO, the West, has been leading Ukraine down a path where they get wrecked. I told you, who's suffering from this? Who is caught in the middle? Who is the sacrificial lamb? Who's the pawn? It's Ukraine.
And I believe that the policy that I'm advocating, which is neutralizing Ukraine and then building it up economically and getting it out of the competition between Russia on one side and NATO on the other side, is the best thing that could happen to the Ukrainians. What we're doing is encouraging the Ukrainians to play tough with the Russians. We're encouraging the Ukrainians to think that they will ultimately become part of the West because we will ultimately defeat Putin and we will ultimately get our way. Time is on our side. And of course, the Ukrainians are playing along with this. And the Ukrainians are almost completely unwilling to compromise with the Russians and instead want to pursue a hardline policy. Well, as I said to you before, if they do that, the end result is that their country is going to be wrecked. And what we're doing is, in effect, encouraging that outcome. I think it would make much more sense.
That's it. You heard the man, and he predicted it exactly. And again, you can go and listen to some corny, lame-ass clowns who think they figured it all out, and this is all about Vladimir Putin's fucking personality, and he's so greedy, and all this cartoon character, comic book, evil bullshit. This is really how neoconservatives view the world, and it's so funny seeing I'm a progressive, falling for this and parroting it, right? Because they see the world as divided into good and bad, and we are the good people, and Putin is bad, and it's not Russia, it's Putin, right? It's Putin's war. It's Putin we have to go after. It's like they turn it into an individual's issue, a personality issue, instead of respecting the very real, legitimate security concerns that Russia has had, that any nation would have, especially a nuclear power of that caliber, and understanding the issue in its geopolitical context. Stop looking at this in a vacuum like it's some high school drama. You stupid, ignorant fucks. Like, I can't believe I have to explain this. Did you learn nothing from the last Cold War? Are you that stupid? C'est pas possible, putain.